side looking upwind, taking sterns. Nice start from Preveza. Peter Holmberg down there on the left side. I say the kings of the pin, they like to start down there. They have the speed and moving slightly forward on Gladiator. Nice start from Tony Langley on the Gladiator. They're lying second in the early stages. We're just less than a minute into this first race of this Menorca 52 Super Series Sailing Week, the final regatta of 2017. And it's Ran Racing and Quantum then working out to the right side early on. Sorsha back with us for this regatta. And also Paprick, who rejoined the circuit after a pause. They did Copa del Rey and missed out on the regatta in Puerto, the last regatta in Mallorca. So as it stands just now then, Azura have made the slightly better start of our three main contenders for the title. It's a 1.9 mile beat, or just probably 2 miles. You'd imagine that the left side would pay in terms of the geographical shift. That's what Preveza are pushing for just now. Winners in Mallorca won the first regatta in their life on the 52 Super Series. They've been members of the series pretty much since the beginning. And Ergen Imrie has invested a lot in his team, particularly through the last winter. That paid off for him. In Puerto Portales, where they won their first regatta, and they are leading in the early stages of this first beat. Gladiator tack off to that right side. Perhaps you'd imagine there might be a little bit more pressure offshore. A very interesting weather situation just now. We have this strong Mistral up to the north of the race area. We know that that is continuing to blow down from the Gulf of Lyon. And then lighter breezes up to the northwest over the Spanish mainland, fairly slack pressure. And then a westerly breeze down in the southerly med. And these will continue to fight over the early course of this regatta. So Preveza appear to have done quite nicely out of that left side early on, crossing in front of Sled. Credited with a lead of about 50 metres. This left side seems to be slightly better just now. Early in this first leg, Quantum down there in 10th, didn't quite get off the start line as they would have wanted. Just watching Preveza crossing Paprec. Platoon and Quantum then 9th and 10th on the water. The early advantage is with Azura. I spoke with all the skippers and tacticians before the regatta, and everyone pledged to sail their own regatta. They said, in particular, Terry Hutchison saying that if you get tunnel vision, start looking at your rivals too early on. Anybody does that is going to find themselves down the fleet. You really have to sail your own regatta, and everyone also saying that the main agenda, the main target is to win the regatta. And if you can win the regatta, then the circuit title will pretty much look after itself. So Sled then out to the furthest left, challenging Preveza. Preveza coming back from the right. Ran Racing then. We spoke with Steve Hales yesterday. He was saying that they really want to go out with a win. They won in Sardinia. Remember on that amazing last day there, Quantum Racing were leading the regatta and on the last circuit, and then they had a problem with their mast. They had to pull out. Then Preveza were leading the regatta, and their kite shackle went. They lost the lead, and it ended up with Ran winning the regatta. So Azura then taking a small lead just now, just middle right of the course. As I said, perhaps just slightly more pressure offshore. You'd imagine the shifts, the beneficial starboard tack lift would be on the left according to the geography. A little bit of profit there for Paprec on this left side. And when I came on the water, or before I came into the studio rather, I spoke with John Kostecki. John Kostecki pledged to stick to their normal game plan. which is staying super conservative. Don't push the start too much. Go for a low density start if possible, and then let their speed and their solid tactics work. Platoon slightly quicker downwind. If anything, their Achilles heel, as they have said, has been light upwind. They seem to be going not too badly just now. Allegre out on that right side looking upwind. That's Andy Soriano. Real morale boost for them, winning the Copa del Rey from mixed fleet and IRC. I think we had 10 52s racing there. A nice win for Allegre. Also another team looking to finish their season on a high note. So just now then, Sled making a small gain out on that left side, looking upwind on starboard. Slightly forward of Paprec. Let's see how this first leg works out. 5 boats out on that furthest right side. Platoon John Kostecki and Jordi Calafat. Jordi Calafat, of course, strategist. And he has sailed, I remember he said he sailed here when he was very young, but he has no particular local knowledge above and beyond what you'll find through the fleet. Despite the fact he's from, of course, nearby in Mallorca. Brunasek lying 8th early on in this first leg, first race of the Menorca 52 Super Series Sailing Week. Brunasek see the return of Francesco Bruni coming back into the 52 Super Series fleet after his time with Artemis Racing in the last America's Cup, and he's delighted to be back working with Morgan Larson on the afterguard of Brunasek. Again, a team which has promised through the course of the season to have all the potential to win a regatta. Not quite managed to deliver, but this may be their venue. Very comprehensive program, good resources, and a very talented team. So the lead changing very slightly. Still continued profit out on that left side. We're just watching Paprec, I think, just about crossing in front of Sled on that left side. In fact, Paprec crossed quite nicely. Paprec also raced at the Copa del Rey, did quite well. The French team, if you remember way back in Key West, there was delight when they won their first race in 52 Super Series. Gladiator chipping away on that right side. So halfway up the beat, it's a very small lead for Gladiator on that middle right. Tony Langley's done so much sailing this year. He's absolutely on the top of his game and really enjoying working with Ed Baird. Little righty coming in for them there. Just you can see the sailing a slightly higher angle. Maybe that's working for Allegre on the right as well. See whether they make progress from 5th, but just now, for sure, there does seem to be, the righty seems to be splitting, if you like, the 3 boats to the right, just lifting slightly. And Prevetsa knocking more and now tacking out towards the starboard tack lay line. Quantum still a little bit deep in the pack in 10th. Platoon made some nice little gains out on that left side. Key for them just now is they have Quantum to leeward. Azura making a nice gain that right side. Nice lane forward of Allegra and well clear of Gladiator. To see Gladiator lifting momentarily and heading. The conditions are very, very shifty. Breezes between 340 to 020. And information from Maria on the committee boat. And we can see that with the variations in the track, not just as much in wind direction, but also the pressure. Remember, the angles open and close so much on these boats when the wind eases. But Azura then, the circuit leaders, nice position for them out on that right side, leading Gladiator by about 30 meters. Converging just now with the boats on that left side. You'd imagine that Azura will step back up to the right once they cross Gladiator. Or maybe go out to Platoon's line, let's wait and see. Vasco Vascotto was in great form this morning, full of smiles, anticipating a few rain showers, he reckoned. I think they're just going to come out to Platoon's line and just keep their main rivals in check. Sled going quite nicely on that left side still. And converging with Azura there. There we go. Platoon, Azura tack on Platoon's line, just slightly to leeward. So in that top three battle for the overall 52 Super Series title 2017, then Harm Muller-Spreer, the owner-driver, and Doug DeVos, owner-driver on Quantum Racing, and Azura have the pro-driver in Guillermo Parada. And of course the German team, Platoon, looking to become the first crew out with the threesome, Ran, Quantum Racing and Azura, the real top teams. Platoon would be the first team out, in fact, to break the duopoly, we call it. Quantum and Azura have always shared out the overall circuit wins since the 52 Super Series started in 2012. It's been one of these two boats that have won, and Platoon have come in the last couple of years and laid down a very strong challenge. So it looks like Gladiator strengthening their hand, a nice position heading up towards the starboard tack lay line, just outside of Azura. Lead of about 25 meters. Sled coming in from the left. Gladiator, a nice little lift for the last couple of minutes on port tack. Azura also have a nice lane. Look at the line for Quantum. Quantum a little bit more dotty just now, or the last few minutes. And Provezza also quite strong, but further out to the right. We'll get to the starboard tack lay line first. Looks like it'll be a busy top mark. between Gladiator and Azura. Gladiator will have the benefit of starboard tack. And credit meantime to Paprec up there in third. Have made a nice start. A few little crew changes through the fleet, nothing terribly significant, though. I say Francesco Bruni coming in for Tommaso Chieffi on Brunensec. Tommaso moves on to the coach boat. And on Paprec, well, Jeremy Millon, who you'll remember was the 470 helm in the French Olympic team in Rio, comes on board as tactician. So Gladiator making their tack. Final approach to the windward mark, just bow to bow and converging with Azura. Azura, I think, may just get across. Hopefully we're going to join Fergal Finlay in a few seconds. Fergal's at the windward mark, the boat captain for the Gladiator team, and I imagine he'll be fairly excited at this present time. Just, I think Azura just tack in front of Gladiator. But it'll be close enough on the final approach into the first mark. This is leg 1 of 4. 2 upwinds, 2 downwinds. And Fergal, are you with us? Fergal? Fergal, we're just waiting for Gladiator and Azura to come into the top mark. How does it look? No, I think we've just lost Fergal, unfortunately. Too much excitement for him. It seems pretty close between Gladiator and Azura. Sled and Paprec just behind. Small lead to Azura just now. Maybe that Sled can get in there. But Vasco Vascotto seems to have worked his magic. Good speed up the first beat. I spoke with Guillermo Parada before the regatta, said they were very confident in their settings for this sloppy seas that we get here. Quite big chop and mixed up swell. Leftover seas certainly seem to have gone quite well up this first beat. So Azura leading round the top mark. Gladiator then in second, Tony Langley's team. And looking like Paprec round in third. So yeah, Jeremy Millon seems to have done his good job up the first beat on Paprec, coming round in third. A little bit low on the offset line, but coming up now to close the door on Sled. Azura leading down the the leeward downwind. Gladiator in second, Paprec third, Sled in fourth. And hopefully we have Fergal Finlay. Fergal, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks, Andy.
Excited?
Feeling a little bit seasick.
Dear, dear, dear. Anyway, Gladiator looking good in second.
Yeah, Gladiator, between Gladiator, Azura and Provezza had the best start at the beginning and tacked off across the entire fleet, got out to the right and stayed in that position. And I guess Azura will be glad looking back, seeing Platoon and Quantum near the back of the fleet. So a real statement of success for Azura holding on to the overall this week.
And what about looking down this run? Azura have a small lead over Gladiator. How are the conditions?
Well, we've got massive seas out here, maybe 2 to 3 metres swell. It's more like conditions we'd expect in Cascais than the Mediterranean. So it's hard to keep up with the boats a little bit downwind because we've got big seas. So there's going to be a lot of surfing. The pumping flag is up, so we'll see the boats trying to pump on the waves and the gusts as much as possible.
And how much wind have you got?
Sorry?
What's the wind speed?
The wind speed's actually it's not that high. It's about 12 knots down at the bottom by the start line. And for the top mark, maybe we've got a little more, maybe 14 to 15 knots. So we'll see it get lighter as we go down the run. But it's pretty close across the middle of the pack at the moment. But I think we'll see Azura and Gladiator just stretch out down here.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Fergal. We'll speak to you at the leeward gate if that's okay.
All right, catch you at the bottom.
So that's Fergal Finlay, the boat captain. Our eyes and ears on the water, sailing, commenting that he feels a little bit queasy, a little bit green today. And that big sea said there's about 2 to 3 meters of swell left over and about 12 knots of breeze. So Azura actually moving quite nicely clear. Fergal predicting that Azura should be able to step clear at the front of the fleet. One of the benefits of being able to sail your own race. And Azura Vasco Vascotto pretty good in that situation. We've seen them build up some big leads when they have won races over the course of this season. But Gladiator hanging on there quite nicely in second. Paprec third. Brunninasek up to fourth. Combined talents of Morgan Larson and Francesco Bruni. Sled making the early jibe. Quantum have jibed early on as well. Now there you go. Quantum have found some nice pressure there. Looking at the relative boat speeds, 11.8, 12 knots. Relative to Azura 9 or 10. And as Fergal said, a couple of knots more wind speed up at the windward mark. A little bit lighter at the leeward gate. Paprec third, as said, Brunninasek fourth. A good first leg for Allegre for Andy Horton and the team on Andy Soriano's Allegre in fifth. Then Platoon and Quantum in seventh and eighth. They have split down this run for sure. Terry Hutchison choosing to work in clear air down that left side looking downwind. Platoon very much in the lineup coming down the first stage of this run. Provezza, as Fergal said, made a good start. Got out to the right early, but unfortunately dropped to 8th. We're certainly contenders for the top 3 in the early part of the beat. Azura opening their lead all the time. They were just over 100 meters ahead down the early part of the run. Now 225 meters ahead of Gladiator. Paprec hanging in there quite nicely ahead of Brunninasek. Brunninasek working more to the right and looking downwind. So let's see whether Quantum can take anything from this run. First target is to get some points on platoon. Really didn't seem to get off the start line as well as they would wanted. Slightly second rank off the line. So Zura looking pretty quick in general. Brunelesek making a nice gain down the right. Nice angle for them. Getting themselves up to second just now. Sister ship, of course, to Azura. Francesco Bruni previously sailed as strategist with Vasco on Azura at different times over the course of the history of the 52 Super Series and the class indeed. Good friends, and Brunelesek appear to have made their jibe. Getting up to second according to Virtual just now. Coming out on quite a high angle though relative to the leeward gate. So their gains may be a little bit transient, coming down in a nice header, but now lifted on this a little bit on this jibe. No obvious gains to Quantum so far. And Paprec still showing good speed. Happy to hang with the newer boats. Azura just lost a little bit of their lead. They're about 225 metres ahead. They're now 202 metres ahead of Paprec, Jean-Luc Petit-Huguenin's team. Their boat is the 2012 Ran Frolic design, built at Green Marine. As I say, hanging in there quite nicely. Probably quite good in these conditions with the big seas and 11, 12 knots of breeze. A little bit narrower on the water line. Just jibing behind the Gladiator. Not too much in it. Give themselves someone to pace themselves again. Chase downwind. Paprec have brought quite a few younger sailors on board. That's been very much Jean-Luc Petit-Huguenin's philosophy, along with skipper Stéphane Neve. And of course the Paprec team go way back to the days of their last, I think they raced in the last Admiral's Cup and the Commodore's Cup, and have progressed up through the different ranks of the sport into the TP52 class. Did a lot of offshore racing before from Brittany. Anyway, Azura then leading through the leeward gate. Pretty comfortable lead, over 300 metres now, going around the left side mark, looking upwind. Nice solid rounding from Guillermo Parada. Come through the gate and they've Be well clear, well set up as Gladiator and Paprec come down. This really will be a nice confidence boost for the Azura team. Focus on the Azura team really is to keep cool and do their jobs to maximum ability. And certainly doing that just now. And as I say, coming into this regatta with a lead of 3 points over Platoon and 7 points over Quantum, then both these teams a little bit lower down the standings in this race. So the Quantum have got themselves up to 6th. So Gladiator coming through the leeward gate, still hanging in there in second. Can we maybe speak with Fergal Finlay, hopefully? Fergal? Gladiator through the leeward gate then, Fergal.
Well, Azura pulled out a huge lead over Gladiator. Gladiator just going round in front of Paprec. Paprec having a good run downwind. But Azura pulled out a lead, maybe 200 metres ahead, and really enjoying these conditions.
Meantime, Quantum have made a little bit of a gain down that left in the end, getting themselves, I think, up to probably 6th or 7th.
Yeah, Quantum jibed off as soon as they got to the top mark, did an early jibe step, and headed out to the left-hand side of the run. And the only boat to really do that, and it seems to have paid off pretty well for them. And they're right back in the mix, which is obviously good for them. But Azura are probably still looking back and realising that they're making themselves a nice comfortable lead for the overall standing still.
Yeah, they're going to put a few points on the board relative to their main rivals on Platoon and Quantum, though. Say Quantum have made that little gain. They're coming through the leeward gate just now, aren't they? On the left-hand mark, looking upwind.
Yeah, as we look upwind at it, they've just gone around the left-hand mark, and I think. Trying to look back, we're actually just a little bit further up the course. We have to chase the drone that we have in the air from the top mark that went AWOL, so we're just looking down the course now. But yeah, the Quantum certainly got back into the mix of the whole race, and still a long way to go. We're nearly up at the top mark now. The breeze is a little lighter than it was the last time we were up here. But the sea state is still fairly big, and still plenty of waves, and still enough to keep me a bit on the green side.
Oh dear. Right, Fergal, we'll speak to you shortly, hopefully at the top mark, but Azura then comfortably ahead. Gladiator up there in second. Bit of excitement on the Gladiator coach boat then.
Say again?
A little bit of excitement for you on the Gladiator coach boat with the Gladiator in second.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great start. You know, these are tough conditions for all the boats out there. So we're very, very happy to be up at the leaders, make a strong start to the final regatta of the season.
And it's conditions which are particularly hard to drive in, I'd imagine, with moderate breeze and the big seas. Tony's doing a great job there by the looks of things.
Yeah, sure, upwind, you're trying to get the accelerating all the time to get over the waves. If you don't have the strength to do it, it makes it a little bit harder. So yeah, they're definitely some of the most challenging conditions we've seen throughout the season. And there's going to be with a couple of races today, and probably the breeze dying off a little bit later in the day, it may just get harder. Okay,
thanks, Fergal. And indeed, Gladiator then just tacking onto port out on that left side, just keeping a cover on the sled behind them. Paprec have gone out to that right side looking upwind. So two boats splitting tacks. Sled in contention, only about 25-30 metres behind Paprec. Hamish Pepper, the tactician on the sled. Takashi Akura's team, another team that want to finish on a high note. Really, obviously you have this battle between the top three who are well clear the title challengers, but so important to finish your season. As Ed Baird was saying this morning, it's 7 months to the next regatta, and that can feel like a lifetime if you finish with a poor result. Everybody wants to finish with their best regatta of their season, and of course, everybody can't achieve that. But Azura then, strong start, leading by 250, 240 metres or so on a Gladiator. Gladiator appeared to be getting a nice lefty and a nice lift up there in port. And this is, as we were saying, where all these extra days of sailing that Tony Langley has done this year. He's obviously running the 52 in the States as well, and did some time with the 52 in, he's got 52 in England. But in these conditions, when it's quite big seas and not really, the wind speed is not matching the sea state, and it's pretty hard to keep the boat at maximum pace all the time in this fleet. So Quantum have got this right out on that left side. Nice angle looking upwind. Nice lift, lifting above Sled and even Gladiator. Terry Hutchison has called this beat right. Well clear of Platoon and Ran. May even get up to Paprec. So nice gain for Quantum. Let's watch how the gain line increases. For sure some pressure and a lefty for them. Paprec just folding very slightly on that right side. Brunisek bows down just now out on the right. Could be some big leverage coming in here for Quantum. Brunisek also suffering out on the right side just now. We'll give a quick look at Quantum's speed and see how it is, but certainly they're going pretty quick and quite high relative to Paprec, or they have been. Still about 40 metres or so behind Brunisek, but say that leverage on this left side has been looking quite good for them. And quite a bit quicker than Paprec just now. So that has to work for Quantum, you'd imagine. Let's watch that. But no mistaking the leader still. Azura still at 300 metres ahead of Gladiator. Gladiator have a nice, nice position, playing the fleet nicely. They have what were their closest rivals on the water below them. So Sled, Paprec, Brunisek, Provezza, all now to leeward of Gladiator. Just watching the line of Provezza, for example, out on that right side, definitely lighter pressure and headed breeze for them. Paprec also heading. But look at Quantum's line, has been super straight all the way up this beat. Still 50 metres or so to catch on Brunisek. So if you just joined us, we're on the third leg, the second upwind leg of race number 1 of the Menorca 52 Super Series Sailing Week. The final regatta, the big showdown for the 52 Super Series 27 title. We're in Menorca in Mahon. Of course, we were here last year for the World Championships and the penultimate regatta of the season. And I think we can safely say that pretty much everyone in the fleet really fell in love with Mahon. It's got a fantastic, nice laid-back vibe, a nice atmosphere. People are super friendly, and the club here do everything they can to help. Really enjoy hosting the 52 Super Series. It's a big event for the city. So over halfway up the second beat. Let's see how Provezza and Quantum do to Provezza and Brennersek and Quantum do relative to each other once the boat's out on this right side. Tack up on the starboard tackly line. See how much there has been any gain to Quantum in the end. Provezza actually may have profited out on this right side. Azura worked the middle right very much on the first beat. Sure, Provezza and Brennersek seem to have been on a progressive knock, so when they tack onto starboard, you'd imagine there'd be some lift, some gain on starboard. So Paprec third at the top mark, first time up, lying fourth now. Sled of third place just now. Allegra have faded very slightly as this race has progressed. Not too many opportunities really. So important as ever to get off the start line. Fergal pretty much confirming that he feels the right up that first beat was the key. But over the course of the week, then our navigators have suggested we should see a real range of conditions. It's kind of post-frontal situation with the northerly Mistral to our north influencing the weather systems or the weather situation here. And just watching this sled cross in front of Paprec. Just consolidate their third place just now. Quite a distance behind Gladiator. Quantum and Provezza are still close in terms of distance to the windward mark. Get a better view when Quantum tack up to the their starboard tackly line. But a big distance between Quantum and Platoon, though it's only one point. Quantum look like they'll close their gap on the leaders very slightly, whereas Azura will step another 5 points clear. So as we said, Azura really have been able to sail their own race pretty much since the top part of that first beat when they stepped clear. So much the case that once you're in front of this fleet, you can multiply that margin out using sailing the shifts, not having to worry about dirty air, the influence of the fleet. Really just get the pedal down and sail fast, sail confident, and that's what Azura are doing just now. And all credit meantime to Gladiator, a nice strong start from them. Gladiator, of course, the newest boat in the fleet, started out as Interlodge, and after that collision in Miami, Tony Langley took the opportunity to buy the Interlodge and really has never looked back. So as we approach the windward mark for the second and last time up for this race number 1, leg 3 of 4 coming to its conclusion with Azura leading. I think we have Fergal Finlay. Fergal, how are you? Hopefully we'll join him in a few seconds. Anyway, Fergal on board the coach boat for the Gladiator. And Fergal's with us now. Fergal, then Azura coming round the top mark with that still nice lead of 200 metres or so.
Yeah, Azura just got around the top mark, going across the spreader leg now, getting ready to hoist the kite with Gladiator. Yeah, 250 to 300 metres behind. We've just seen a huge shift, a big left shift at the top mark, with actually a lot lighter breeze. They're probably in about 8 to 10 knots in the chase boat at the moment. And we're seeing a lot of the boats who thought they called a really good starboard ley line get headed right down back into the middle of the course. And a lot of the guys having to sail a lot further into the right-hand side of the course than they thought because of this big shift.
And meantime, Quantum worked the early left on that beat, got themselves up to 5th just now. Got across Brunner and Provezza by the looks of things.
Yeah, I think Quantum are probably having the best race out here. They had a poor start and a fairly poor first beat, and obviously we saw them do well on the first run, and now we see them right up with Paprec and Sled, who are in 3rd and 4th, and they're just coming out to the starboard ley line and tacking on it now, and we could see them going around the top mark in 4th or 5th. We actually see Paprec doing a big dip on them now, so they've overtaken Paprec as well. And because of this big left shift down the corner, we could see them pretty close to Sled for 3rd as well. So they've had an amazing beat here.
Good comeback for them. And the Gladiator then round the top mark in 2nd, going across the offset leg. How's the Gladiator looking?
The Gladiator just hoisting their kite to the spreader mark now, and there's a huge gap back to the rest of the fleet. So we've got Azura really comfortable there, 300 metres down the last run. The kite's just gone up from Gladiator now, and there's I think Sled in 3rd, still a fair way off the top mark. So it's a big gap back, and you think that the positions 1st and 2nd are pretty safe, and then the fleet really starting to compress in the middle thanks to that big shift at the end there.
So some exciting finishes coming up in the middle of the fleet, but Quantum seem to have done a really good job on that run and on the second beat to get up to, I think, going round the top mark in 4th and not too far behind Sled. Is our Sled catchable?
I think Sled are definitely catchable. They're just rounding the top mark now, just starting to ease the jib onto the spreader leg, but Quantum had sailed a little further and we're actually already putting off a little earlier. There's probably a gap of about 50 metres back to Quantum from Sled, and then a small gap back to Brunner behind Quantum, but Quantum have a very good hoist and sail fast downwind and have another good run like the first one, and then Sled are for sure catchable, but obviously Quantum have got the rest of the fleet breathing down their necks and going to want to keep their air clean from Brunner and Paprec behind them.
And unfortunately for Platoon in 7th, and so Quantum opening 3 or 4 points on them and closing the gap, in fact, on this one race alone.
Yeah, I think Platoon, they kind of sailed up the middle of that second beat there and have fallen foul of that nasty shift towards the end. And I think they're going to attack inside of just inside of Allegre, following Prevets around. So this isn't the start of the regatta they wanted. What with the overall season being definitely at stake for them with Quantum and Azura. So they're going to be looking for a much better race in the second one today.
But it looks like it's a course you can't afford to be conservative on.
No, I think you've really got to nail the starts on this one, because if you get your nose clean in this, a bit like Azura did, then you get the chance to extend. And you saw Quantum, they made that risky early jibe on the last run, and it massively paid for them. So yeah, everyone's got to have their wits about them out here and just sail a very clean race.
That's it. Thanks, Fergal. We'll speak to you at the finish, and we're just watching then Quantum chasing Sled down this run, deciding not to jibe set or not to jibe early. Bruninsek do. Bruninsek working to that early left, looking downwind. Sled jibe. Now, will Quantum go with them, or will they try and stay with the right, looking downwind? Looking at Azura's line, they've managed to sail a little bit deeper than Gladiator, more directly towards that leeward gate. In fact, Gladiator appeared to have made a little bit of a gain, coming back to 150, 160 metres behind Azura when it was 300 metres at the top mark. Gladiator a little bit quicker, just faster for the moment. Sailing slightly higher angles. Let's have a look at Bruninsek down this run. They appear to have got back ahead of Quantum according to the distance to the finish line. Of course, that's not the be-all and end-all at this stage, but Bruninsek very much quicker. Just looking at that, they were doing 12 knots to Quantum. We're doing 9 or 10, although it does come and go. Bruninsek there pulled at 11 knots, and Quantum 8 to 10. Paprec then, unfortunately, up in third, now down to sixth, dropping back into the pack, and that's where it gets so difficult. Provezza, the winners of the last regatta, and Puerto Portals lying 8th. Even though they had a good start, the left side did not really pay for them early on. So Gladiator still closing up. Just speed building coming out of their jibe. Though for the moment noticeably less pressure down that right side where Azura and Gladiator are. Let's see if the speed builds again for them. Looking light just now for Azura and Gladiator according to our virtual. Boats on this left side have nearly twice the boat speed. And in particular Bruninsek very fast. Moving well clear of Quantum. Quantum a little bit in the middle of the course. So for sure a lull there on that right side looking downwind. Gladiator have actually lost out third place to Sled just now. Sled still going fast down that left side and looking like they'll take over the lead. And who'd have thought then, with Azura 300 metres ahead, that right side really has folded looking downwind. Azura got themselves into a hole. One of the things I do remember from the race course from last time is you do have these pulses of breeze coming down the left side, the offshore side of the track. That's worked for Sledge in the meantime. So Sled, Takashi Akura's team, take over the lead by virtue of that strong pressure down the left side. Azura still only doing 9 or 10 knots. Gladiator coming back at 11. So a big charge down the left for Sled and Brunanasek, really paying off in particular. In terms of distance to the finish line, there's still 150 metres between Gladiator and Quantum. But this leg is far from over. We're only halfway down, less than halfway down. You can see the angles down this run. Sled have been able to steer more directly towards the finish line. And Azura and Gladiator in particular, starved of breeze on that jibe, or just after the jibe, very slow. Still the speed advantage to the boats on the left, looking downwind, Sled and Brunanasek in particular. Quantum Doug DeVos sailing a higher angle, coming across towards a stronger breeze. You can see the speeds rising and falling all the time, but Quantum jibing, speed dropping through the jibe. So it looks like Sled in the best position. Closing stages of this first race here in Menorca in Mahon, the Menorca 52 Super Series Sailing Week. Azura had a lead of over 300 metres at the top mark. They're now 125 metres or so behind Sled. Sled finished 6th in Puerto Portals. Won 2 races, if you remember, in the middle of the regatta. And if you remember, Sled also won the first race in Porto Cervo. Azura now have their hands full with the Gladiator on their hip, just to slightly to weather down this run. Quantum battling with Brunanasek. Sled still have the better angle towards the finish line, sailing more directly. Azura then jibing inside Gladiator. I think as much as anything. Well, there you go. Quantum then up to 4th. Azura now in 3rd. And from what looked like to be a real benefit for the Azura team, They now have their nemesis just behind them, albeit there's 200 metres or so of difference on the water, but I think Vasco Vascotto just choosing to jibe and stay in front of Quantum, just keep a little bit of a loose cover on them. Sled out on the left side, still sailing a nice direct angle towards the finish line. In fact, Gladiator get themselves back up to second, and according to Virtual now through Azura. As much because Azura, I feel, just choosing to mirror Quantum's moves, perhaps at the expense of losing Gladiator. In the meantime, some nice gains for Platoon. Platoon get themselves up to 6th, which is just one place behind Quantum. So the balance of power changing all the time in this race. Imagine a few frayed nerves on board, the main contenders in particular. Particular credit just now to Sled, who really have come straight down this run. Great call from Hamish Pepper. Just indicative of how funky and changeable the breezes are. Remember, Maria Torrijo, our race officer, said the big shifts in the pre-start period, and that seems to have carried on through this race. Some big changes then. Azura leading by over 300 metres at that last top mark, and they're now 300 metres or so behind Sled. Meantime, credit to Ed Baird and the Gladiator team have hung in there for second. Their battle is with Azura. Huge gains then to Sled down this run. Now starting to change their angle, come into the finish line. Hopefully we'll maybe get some words from Fergal Finlay through the finish line. But Sled sailing some pretty extraordinary angles by the looks of things. May not be over. So hopefully Fergal can tell us what's going on then. Sled coming back and made some big gains down this run, but coming out back at a very hot angle.
Well, it's been a really exciting run, and yeah, Sled were one of the first boats to jibe off, and coming in on going down the run, pretty much the whole run on starboard being let down, and looking like they're pretty close to second place. I don't think they'll quite get to Gladiator because they're going to have to come in on starboard at such a hot angle.
Yeah.
And they've still got a way to go. I think Azura are going to take the win, and it's going to be pretty close between Gladiator and Sled for second. But we've just seen Granada rip their kite, lose a few places there. They haven't managed to get one back up yet. But Quantum have stayed going fast downwind, and Provetza have made gains, and actually Platoon are right back up into the mix in 6th place now. So I think we're going to see Azura just cross the line in first, and I think we'll still see Gladiator take second, but an amazing run from Sled, who will probably continue on to take third.
But that was just on pressure or pressure and shift for Sled. Anyway, that's Azura through the line, is it?
Yes, Azura just finishing there. Gladiator just going through the line right now, and Sled coming in on starboard. Probably one more jibe, or maybe just continue to go through the line on starboard to take third. And we've got a big drop in the pressure down here. We're maybe down at 7 or 8 knots here. Sled just going through the line now with Quantum, Professor, and then Platoon rounding out the top 6. Going to be coming through the line in the next minute or so.
It's a good recovery in the end from Quantum, considering they were 9th and 10th up that first beat to get through in 4th. Really credit to Terry Hutchison and Michele Avaldi, Ian Moore, team on board. And I think having one boat between them and Platoon.
Yeah, they managed to squeeze Provetza in between them and Platoon, but Azura will be happy to get a few more points in their buffer overall. But yeah, a really great race style by Quantum to get back up from the back to the front. And obviously we're very happy here with Gladiator second.
Great, a good start for the Gladiator team. Thank you very much, Fergal. We'll speak to you during the next race. You reckon we'll go straight into the second race, or do you think there'll be a little bit of a pause to see what the breeze does?
I imagine there'll be a slight pause due to the conditions, the wind shifting, and actually the lighter breeze at the moment.
Yeah.
So we'll probably hear more in the next 10 minutes or so.
Perfect. Thank you, Fergal. All the best.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.
So just seeing the results coming through on Virtual Azura then winning race number 1. The circuit leaders extending their points buffer on Platoon in particular and Quantum. Quantum closing 1 point closer to Platoon. So Azura, Gladiator, Sled, Quantum, Provetza, Platoon, Ran Racing. Remember Quantum were 9th or 10th around the top mark. Azura with that big lead, we thought Sled were going to catch them, but in the end there was that big gain on the starboard jibe coming downwind, but coming back, or port jibe coming downwind, then coming back. They were such a hot angle they could not consolidate against Azura. So Azura going through for the win. And Quantum up to 4th, Provetza 5th, Platoon 6th, Ran Racing 7th. Paprec 2nd, I think, or 2nd or 3rd at the top mark first time round. Yeah, 3rd after Gladiator. Dropping down to 8th and 9th, Brunasek. Brunasek were top 3, top 4 through the early part of the race, dropping to 9th. In 10th, Allegra and Sorsha coming through the finish line now in 11th place. So that's our first race here at the Menorca 52 Super Series Sailing Week. All credit to Azura, got themselves off the start line early, got out to the right and led round the top mark, round the leeward mark, and all the way up the second beat. Caught a little bit by Sled, but hung in there for their first win. Credit to Gladiator and Sled, top 3 in that race. Join us again for the second race, as we think there will be a little bit of a pause. The breeze up and down, very shifty, and I think that Maria Torrijos will just wait until the breeze is settled. Join us again soon for race number 2 here in Mahon.